Bobby really has changed. Believe me, everything in her house looked like a TV commercial.
I don't care what anybody says. I'm not going to end up like one of those pan scrubbers. I'm getting the hell out of Stepford.
Like Brian Forbes' work, and I thought that this was kind of in this picture needed some sort of an intelligence behind it, and Brian Forbes certainly answered that.
I got a call out of the blue from Edgar Sherrick. I thought it was fascinating they would ask an English director to direct what is obviously a very American subject.
It was just the American dream of these fantastically perfect women taken to the nth degree.
Easy on spray starch. It must save me half an hour a day at least.
A foreigner's point of view about America, which is always interesting. You know, sometimes we should look at ourselves through other people's eyes to see what they see, to see who we are. And that's really what I think the choice of Brian did.
He's a good director, and he'd responded to the material. I don't think it mattered whether he was not American.
And I think Edgar Sherrick's reasoning behind that was he thought that an Englishman would put a totally new slant on it. And I'd always wanted to make a thriller in sunlight, as it were, you know, instead of the old dark house technique.
We Stepford Wives are busy, busy, busy.
A friend of mine at the time was, and still is, William Goldman, was writing the screenplay. And I had been aware of the work he'd been doing on it because he was interviewing Betty Friedan, all the feminists of the time, where that was a hotbed of feminism was the 70s and early 70s. And so Bill set out to make this a feminist diatribe, basically. That was his goal.
I told you I messed a little bit with women's lib in New York.
Didn't we all?
I'm not contemplating any maiden-form bonfires, but they could certainly use something around here.
Oh, yeah.
You game?
I'm game. Boy, am I game!
There was a draft, yes, by William Goldman, which I thought needed work on it, and so did Edgar Sherrick. He was charming. He became perhaps progressively less charming. I don't think he likes directors, and he particularly doesn't like English directors, I don't think.
Before Brian Forbes came on, what the hell was the guy's name? Brian De Palma. I liked Brian De Palma because he had done a picture called Sisters, and I gave him the script to read it. He said to me, "This is my ticket to the big time," and he loved it. So I said to Goldman, "I'd like maybe to hire Brian De Palma." And he said to me, "If you hire Brian De Palma, I don't want anything ever to do with the picture again."
I mean, it was a very good script, a very good draft that he'd done, but I felt it was capable of improvement.
Brian Forbes did some work on the script, much to Goldman's chagrin.
There'll be somebody with my name, and she'll cook and clean like crazy, but she won't take pictures, and she won't be me.
Bill and I were playing tennis one day, and he said, he came in and he said, "I just delivered the rewrite to Forbes." The afternoon I had a meeting with Brian about something else, and he didn't know anything about it. He said, "Well, Goldman never turned in the script." I thought, wait a minute, Bill just told me he just turned in the script. What's going on here? He said, "I'm going to have to rewrite it myself."
And finally, I did a final shooting script myself, so there are lots of sacred and profane bits of me in that film, which are not Goldman.
He was angry. He was a celebrated screenwriter, Academy Award winner as a screenwriter, and he didn't want somebody rewriting his material.
He wrote a much more horrific ending, which I thought ran counter to the rest of the movie. So the ending was very greatly altered by me.
Why? Because we can.
He wanted to do something with the opening, which he did, and we actually shot Brian Forbes' opening.
Right at when they leave the New York apartment, just before the credits start, the little girl, the daughter, says, "Daddy, I've just seen a man carrying a naked lady." And the father says, "Yes, that's why we're moving to Stepford." Now, in retrospect and with hindsight, that has double meaning.
I remember one time, a little confrontation Brian and I had on the set. There was a line I was supposed to say. I was talking to some of the chaps on the train this morning. I said, I wouldn't say chaps. Americans don't say that. That's an English thing. And he said, well, what's wrong with saying it? And I said, well, you want to change it to the Twickenham Wives, that'd be all right.
Well, we had a great deal of trouble casting the movie for various reasons. I suppose I must have interviewed 25 leading ladies, and for one reason or another, a lot of them fell by the wayside.
Bill Goldman's model for it was Mary Tyler Moore and Valerie Harper.
I cast Diane Keaton, had a great day with her, went over the script with her, how we do it, how we play it, etc. And she went off at 5 o'clock from my office, happy as a lark, as far as I was concerned. And the following morning, about 9:30, she rang me and said, "I'm sorry, I'm not doing the movie." And I said, "Gosh, well, what happened between 5:30 and 9 o'clock this morning?" She said, "Well, I gave the script to my analyst, and he got very bad vibes from it, so I can't do it." I then tried to get Jean Seberg, but sadly she was close to doing what she did because she committed suicide. And then another one was not allowed to do it for political reasons because the money was coming from a big corporate company. And finally, and happily, I ended up with Catherine Ross.
If I'm wrong, I'm insane. And if I'm right, it's worse than if I'm wrong.
I think someone else was cast in the part, and something happened, and I was called by my agent and sent a script and read it and liked it and flew to New York, I think, practically immediately to meet with Brian Forbes.
Catherine was a sweetheart. She just was on everybody's wish list at that time. She'd done Graduate, Butch Cassidy.
Catherine was enchanting. She became a very good friend.
You just have to look into her eyes and you're just right at home.
She's one of those very gentle, very sweet personalities, very easy to work with.
Look, I bleed. Oh, that's right. You take it black.
Well, I cut myself. I bleed.
Do you bleed?
Why, look at your hand.
No, you look.
Joanna.
Someone else was cast as Bobby and shot for about a week.
Joanna Cassidy was cast. Beautiful girl and quite a good actress.
Another actress started the film, which the producer wanted to play and said she's magic. But after a fortnight, he decided she wasn't magic and insisted that she was fired.
When the name of Paula Prentice came up, I said, she'd be wonderful.
I think there's something in the water that turns us into housefrows.
And I had just had my baby, so it was a chance to work, even though he was 3 months old, so we took him. So, of course, I zipped up my pants and went to do it.
Paula is wonderful. She's a kind of extrovert, mad, funny, and can make you laugh before you do a take, and is a fascinating character, and sort of, in the best sense of the word, kooky, I think.
Woo! I just have a good time with things, really.
How could you do a thing like that? When I was just going to give you coffee. When I was just going to give you coffee.
She's an incredible actress. She's totally free, it seems like. It's inspiring to work with her because it keeps you on your toes. She was great.
I'm Carol Van Sant.
And Nanette was divine. She was.
Nanette is a very gracious lady and very nice person.
I really sound like a Stepford wife going through all these lovely qualities of these women.
Oh, it was just like a dream. It really was.
I'll just die if I don't get this recipe. I'll just die if I don't get this recipe.
Nanette Newman goes with Brian Forbes. That's not an option you get. You hire Brian Forbes, you get Nanette Newman.
I got involved because I knew the director very well indeed. I think that's the honest answer.
I'm not meant to degrade Nanette Newman. She's a fine woman and a good actress.
This is all so silly. It's just my head.
It was nice for me to work when I was out there, nice to play an American. And it was really quite a small part, you know, so I don't think anybody objected to me doing it.
William Goldman. He wrote nasty things and said that the lack of success of the film in America was entirely due to my casting Nanette, which I thought not only was a total exaggeration, because Nanette wasn't playing the lead anyway, and grossly rude, I thought, and offensive.
And it also led to costuming the picture in a different way. The intent was that all the women in Stepford were Playboy bunnies. And because Nanette wouldn't have looked good in a Playboy bunny outfit or something like that, they wanted long dresses, which kind of toned down the whole thing.
Hi, Kip. How are you? Hello, Marianne.
And I thought when he dressed us in the long dresses at the end in the shopping market, that was great because it was kind of like Victorian dressing, which was the point. Do you know, the point is women are still living in the Victorian age in a way.
I'll just die if I don't get this recipe.
I don't mind what people say about me, but I'm like a tiger if anybody attacks my wife.
Yes, he was angry, and I don't think they spoke again. I could be wrong about that, but that's my guess.
The irony was that when I was president of the Writers Guild over here, I gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award. Connecticut is a lovely place to be in, and I didn't shoot in any sets at all. I didn't build any sets. That's Connecticut. The white picket fences, the manicured lawns, etc., etc. So I wanted to keep that normality.
Brian had and Nanette had rented a house in Westport, I think it was. And that's where we met to do the readings and rehearsals.
Kids went to school there. My daughter graduated from Staples High School while we were there, because I was there 9-10 months. I enjoyed it.
Everybody is gathered together in a location. You've all rented houses, and it's rather like going back to very glamorous rep days, because you're all thrown together. You very often meet in the evening and you meet at weekends, and it becomes a very communal effort.
Very green and lush, and lots of bluefish to eat, which was probably what I ate every single night. So it was a lovely setting, and we ate outside. You know, it was kind of like a European production. We ate outside, and I think we had wine and things like that, and long lunch hours and stuff like that.
It was really a very enjoyable film to make.
And I'd drive up from here, and actually, Mary Stewart went with me, my daughter. She was 7 at the time, so she used to be my buddy.
His daughter was playing one of our children, which made it sort of interesting.
Are you two fighting?
No.
We don't like it when you fight.
I like being in scenes with my kid. It was fun. Brian Forbes didn't know that I knew Bill Goldman. When we would shoot a scene, I would call Bill and say, this is the scene. I can't remember what your original intent was. And he would tell me, well, you missed, if you can talk him into getting this back into this scene, try to do that.
How would you feel about some of the guys meeting in our house?
Brian didn't know we were talking, and I couldn't tell him to put back stuff that was exactly like Bill had it, because he would suspect something, I think.
Generally speaking, it went very smoothly. Thanks to the strong hand of the producer.
Of course, it was the height of the liberation movement at that time. they felt very keenly. In fact, one really manic libber hit me over the head with an umbrella at the New York Press show.
The fact that it triggered that and it became sort of a definition for something is maybe a testimony to whatever the movie made people feel.
I tried to explain to her, far from being anti-women, it was really anti-men, and in any event, it was a fantasy.
I like to watch women doing little domestic chores.
You came to the right town.
They didn't see what the movie was about. I mean, they were using this anti-feminist attitude by the men to make a point that was a feminist point. That was the point of the movie.
I like to see my home looking nice.
And I think when people think it's anti-women, I think they're off the ball, because if anything, I think it's anti the men.
Any group of men who want to really change their wives by enlarging their breasts, things like that, have to be of the lowest order. And that's what this picture's about.
This was the first chance that women got to say, why do men want us this way with these big bosoms and, you know, all that?
I mean, I didn't make the film thinking, oh, this is a wonderful opportunity to knock the feminist movement. I mean, bullshit, I didn't.
I want to please him now. And boy, am I ever going to.
Ira Levin, when he saw the film, pronounced himself very happy. Thought I'd done him justice. Didn't get a very big release in America, or indeed any release over here until the London Film Festival. And then it very quickly became a sort of cult movie. No, I'm delighted about the cult status because it obviously means the picture is kept alive and one gets a few residuals.